So you are currently tuned into the TBD live stream or on KCSB FM 91.9 in Santa Barbara and netnetradio.com Tijuana. I'm joined by my friend Wayne Lytalk, and today we have Andrew Weathers, a local Texas Prairie legend. Maybe you know him from his time running the Full Spectrum record label or the dozens of releases he's been mastering for pals. Either way, he's got a full plate. He joins us from his home in Littlefield, Texas. How have you been holding up during the quarantine, Andrew?
I've been all right. It's like uh you know in this like kind of like weird roundabout way, the quarantine has been a little bit of a blessing in disguise for
Yeah.
us.
Uh-huh.
Because we've been living in Littlefield for like now about 4 years, and we've been renovating this building that we bought in the downtown,
Okay.
and we've been doing all the work ourselves, and it's like a lot of work. Um, And at the beginning of the quarantine, we were about like halfway done, after 3 years
Mm-hmm.
with all the renovations that we needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And since we couldn't go anywhere or see anybody or do much of anything, we just like really, like last summer, we just really busted ass.
Yeah.
And at the end of this, by the end of the summer, like we had finished my like recording studio and mastering studio
That's sick.
portion of the building, which was really satisfying and good to just like, you know, get all that like really hard work out of the way, and
Mm-hmm.
then still have a little bit of like uh more chill time to actually use the space that we
Yeah.
built.
Yeah.
Um I'm like actually kind of nervous about things starting to open up, because I'm like, it am I going to be stressed out when people come over? Like, what is that going to be like?
Oh, dude, I know exactly how you feel.
It's
Like, stuff's starting to go somewhat back to normal here. Like people are getting vaxxed, like the kids are getting vaxxed now. And people
yeah,
are like, "Hey, dude, can you hit up Bico and see if we can play a show there?" And I'm just like,
yeah.
"Oh, I
What?
don't." I was like, I don't know what to like how to respond to you right now. I don't know, dude. It's weird. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's like, should I feel stressed out about this? Like, you know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Well,
Um,
and then it's like, especially with shows coming back, like, you know, we don't have any like legitimate helpful guidance
oh yeah, that's what I'm
on
saying.
like
Yeah.
how we should be
Yeah.
approaching this whole situation.
It's so weird. Yeah.
I will be
Yeah,
going to a show next month, and I'm very excited to see how they pull it off with the
yeah,
garage spacing and everything. But it's really frustrating because like for DIY shows, these don't get a lot of people coming in the first place. So you could spread out, but no one wants to plan all the stuff out to do it safely.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
then you
yeah.
end up with these rich shows that it's like, well, that's the only option. And it's because
Yeah.
of the money and stuff attached.
Yeah, I have thought like, um the beginning of the pandemic, it was like Monday we had a show at Co-op in Lubbock, which is
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
where we book shows.
Mm-hmm.
And it was weird, and everyone, we had hand sanitizer, and we were like, okay, I think everything's good and we can do the show. We did the show, and then Friday I was gonna leave for a 2 week tour, and we canceled. And like, even I drove like almost to Dallas, halfway to Dallas, and then turned around.
Yeah.
And like, that was before any states had done anything, or any like big things had been canceled. And so like DIY was on the like edge of that. And I think it's gonna be like underground music is gonna be like one of the last things to come back,
Yeah.
because of what you're saying, that like we don't necessarily have the capacity or like desire or bandwidth to just like deal with what we need to do,
Yeah.
or like even just like figuring out what we need to do to be safe and
Yeah.
have like a show. So I don't know, man.
Yeah. It's been pretty interesting. I'm excited to see how things are gonna come back. I feel you on the stressed out thing, just
Yeah.
interacting with people and stuff again, but you know. I guess like what else have you been up to? Have you done any like been doing like virtual gigs? Like how have you adapted, I guess, otherwise? Like you know,
I, yeah, I did some like live stream shows right at the beginning.
yeah.
Um and that was fun. And then it's like I did like 3 or 4 of those and it was fun.
Yeah.
And then it got like a little sad.
Yeah. I could see that.
Because
Yeah.
it's like I'm like sitting there like in my living room drinking a beer, and then like I like type to my friends a little bit of like, cool, thanks for coming, good to
I
see you.
know, dude.
And
Yeah.
then I just like go eat some spaghetti with Gretchen. And you're like, all right.
That is
Like,
so funny. Yeah, dude. I feel like that's literally been my experience, like with any virtual gig that like I have like attended or something with like, I guess bigger scene, like the Hazu Mountain ones all the time. I feel like it's just all the people,
Shout out
hey,
to those.
good to see you. Thanks for coming, stuff
Yeah.
like that. It's interesting.
like I'm gonna take a bath now. Like,
Yeah.
cool. And there's like a charm to that, but I miss, it's like shows for me are just as much about like hanging out with people and seeing people
Oh
as
yeah,
it is
totally. Yeah.
actually playing. And
Yeah.
and it's like it is cool to see people in the text and like, do whatever. But it's just a different thing, and
Yeah.
it's lacking. And I just like lost the energy to do those performances. And so I haven't done one probably since the summer.
Yeah. So you also mentioned too, that you were working on like finishing up some mastering stuff this morning.
Yeah.
Like, what you have any like major projects, I guess, you're working on you can talk about, I guess? Like,
Oh man, it's like one big one that I've been doing is there's this kind of like free jazz collective in Durham, North Carolina, or like mostly in Durham,
yeah.
called Poly Orchard.
Okay.
It's run kind of like head up by this bassist David Ministre, and I just finished their new album, which is like 3 hours long.
That's crazy.
It's totally crazy.
That's insane.
And I don't really know what is going on. It's like quasi free jazz, but there's a lot more electronic manipulation going on.
Yeah.
It's
sick.
say that again.
I was just
feel
saying
for
that's
that.
sick.
I
Yeah.
was thinking
Yeah.
of the trio or a few other people I've seen on Orc tapes doing that.
Yeah, it's like it seems like it's a cool development to like keep improvised music alive while we can't improvise in the same rooms. So yeah, that one's cool. And then I was working on like a black metal split for American Decline Records. I've been working on a lot of black metal for them, and that's like super fun because it's just different for me.
Is that the Shirishi split? Or is that part of one of Patrick's bands? Because I know
No, it's not Patrick's band. It's actually, I don't know the bands personally, because I'm not super, I love black metal, but I'm not like super clued into like the scene of it,
Yeah.
I guess.
Is American Decline, is that like dude, I can't think of it. Is that like Jordan Reyes almost?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've seen him talking about that like black metal record or something like that. That's sick.
Yeah. It's a sub label, I guess, of
American Dreams. or
American
something.
Dreams.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool. And it's interesting hearing you talk about like your mastering work, just stuff that you're working on in like real time, because me and Maddie were personally like introduced to your name by like, I guess, your engineering work.
Yeah.
I
we
feel
just
like
kept on the tapes.
yeah, see you like in every like all the liner notes, it's so interesting. And then we started interviewing more people. I think like Maurice was like, yeah, our record's gonna be mastered by like Andrew Weathers and stuff, and then like Windtide on like the new computer goes. Anyways, so how did you like become the go-to dude for everybody from the scene to get their masters done? How'd you become the go-to dude?
I don't know. It's like I've just been doing it a long time. I think like a lot of people maybe don't realize how long I've been not like active musically or like doing mastering work, because it basically started when I started the label in 2008. That like as we were like learning how to do the process of putting out tapes, everyone was like, you got to get it mastered, and I was like, okay, well, I don't have the money to do that, so I need to figure out how to do that on my own. And so I did a bunch of the early full spectrum releases, kind of like faking it for a long time, and until I, it's just one of those things that grows really slowly.
Yeah.
And I've just been doing it forever. And like people like Mari, who, she started hiring me to master her records like regularly well before anybody was doing that. And
Oh,
so
that's interesting.
like developing those relationships, and like I think people seeing that like my name is on, most of Mari's
Yeah.
stuff,
Uh-huh.
that is like how it turns into being the go-to dude or whatever.
Yeah.
And also like I think my rates are very competitive. Because I hate money so much. I like
Oh, hell
hate
yeah.
taking money. I don't like
Yeah.
charging people to do work. I just like need to eat and live.
Yeah.
So,
That's sick. I love that actually. That's awesome.
Also, well, I guess because you had brought it up and it's come up a couple times, is that you are now based in Littlefield, Texas, which is about 30 minutes there outside of Lubbock
Yeah.
itself. And I was kind of shocked at just the smallness of Littlefield. I've driven through many towns like that when you go through
Yeah.
Post or something, going from Cleburne all the way over to Lubbock for family.
yeah.
And, like, how, I guess, livable is Littlefield? What is it like down there? What can you do with that downtown space? And then how does like the co-opt in Lubbock
Yeah.
also play into that?
I mean, wait, so are you from West Texas?
I have a lot of family based out there.
Wow. Yeah. Post is like, there's not a lot going on in Post. But yeah, I mean, it is honestly like extremely livable if you are okay with like giving up like lattes and brunch and things like that.
Y'all got Topo Chico?
We got so much Topo Chico.
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah.
We're gonna make it.
I mean, that's honestly the thing, is that it's like we don't pay rent, we don't have a mortgage, because property is very cheap here. And in town, the town is 6,300 people. It is the county seat, and so it has all of the I know. It has all the basics. Like there's the hardware store, there's a couple grocery stores, mechanics out the wazoo. Like it's like you can do your day-to-day stuff, and like Lubbock is a half-hour drive if we need some like goat cheese or like an IPA or whatever. And it's definitely different. It's like because we moved here from Oakland, and it's like major lifestyle shift in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But it's pretty livable. It's pretty awesome. Like the low cost of living really facilitates a lot of flexibility, like me not having to charge a whole lot of money for mastering work.
Yeah.
And that I'm happy with that. And so the co-op thing, it kind of developed. There's the music and art scene in Lubbock is kind of nascent and slowly starting to grow. And I think it's a really exciting time to be in Lubbock, honestly. And that as soon as we moved here, people started hitting me up to book shows because that's how things go. And historically, there's like not a whole lot in between Albuquerque and Austin.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's hard to get a gig in Amarillo, hard to get a gig in Lubbock, for our kind of weirdo left field music. And so people started hitting me up pretty quick, and eventually I met this sculptor, Eric Simpson, and he's from Lubbock, and he does these pretty amazing sculptures of like rearranged agricultural equipment, and he is also a farmer, and so he's kind of putting agriculture and the land and the landscape in this visual arts. And he hosted a show at his studio and was really into it. I think he got really excited about weird music, even though he hadn't really interacted with that before. And so when he had to move out of that particular space, he really like put it together. He was just like, you know what? We need an artist run gallery. I need a studio. These other folks need studios. And I know all these people who want to do something in Lubbock. And he kind of like called in like a group of like 10 or 11 people to like form a collective to run co-op
Wow,
gallery.
that's sick.
Yeah, it's like it's a lot of ways like kind of like the mythic dream of like underground culture.
Yeah.
And it's not without its issues and difficulties, but like, we've been able to stay, we haven't been open, but like we still have the space through the pandemic. We were able to keep paying rent together because it's affordable and there are a lot of us. And like not a lot of DIY spaces, I think, have been able to do that necessarily.
Yeah. So when exactly did you start this again? What year was this?
That was like mid 2018, I think.
Okay. That's sick.
Or no, actually, no, it was like summer 2019.
Oh wow, okay. So it's still relatively
yeah, it was like
new for the most
really
part.
pretty recent.
Yeah.
And we as soon as we opened, it was like July 2019. I think we were doing like 2 music shows a month at the space up until last March.
Yeah. Wow, that's sick. That's crazy.
I'll probably have to keep moving around different questions. This is great, although I was so happy to hear that. But also, again, Full Spectrum, congratulations. Surpassed Hunter's release. And catalog titles do include 55 cassettes. You've done 25 CDs, 8 books and digital releases, 5 LPs, 4 digitals, 1 MSX patch, and a tote bag.
Wow.
How do you know what format a Full Spectrum release is going to come out as? That's what I'm really curious.
I mean, it really just depends. It's like, a lot of the Full Spectrum stuff, we're all involved in the development of the release, from as much of the beginning as you can be. And so like the books, like some of those books were things that me and Andy Marino conceived of. And so it was just going to be that way from the beginning. Or like the tasting menu, they had this whole project and they were just like, will you put out this book? We have, that one was really like, we have the book. We just would like it to be on a label, and we did it because they're fantastic, obviously. Yeah, the tote bag expansion was new. That's like a new thing. But that was just me and Gretchen just like talking about ideas, and I was like, you should just make a tote bag and we'll give it a catalog number, and that's the thing. I think,
that's honestly sick.
Yeah, I think that's fun,
Yeah.
In regards, because I'd also, a lot of the cassettes I'd recently picked up, some of the stuff over winter, the Windtide split, Celiu's, and then also not Marsha Fisher's, it was Stick Control. And all of those cassettes have really lovely releases. They've all been done a little bit differently. And so process-wise, when you're putting that tape together, how does that relationship go with an artist, and how do you know, like, are we going to include all of the lyrics? Are we going to include like a press release in this?
Yeah, it's just like, I know there's a lot of the DIY labels. It's kind of like a streamlined process where it's like the release, we kind of have like a template and a method for developing artwork, and it all is consistent and branded. But like, and I understand that from a logistical point of view. But that feels like capitalism to me, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
Because it's just branding, and that is successful. But I think underground music needs to not be capitalism as much as it can be. And so every project is just unique. And Gretchen is a really brilliant visual artist, and sometimes she does the whole artwork, from the ground up, and just builds it working with the artist. And there's always varying degrees of like, just do whatever, or I have this very specific idea. Like when Gretchen does my album artworks, I'm always like, yeah, it should be this. It would me upside down in a chair, and it's got to be this chair, and it's kind of this like super dialed in process.
Yeah.
But it really just depends, and sometimes folks will just have an image that they like, and Gretchen will just lay it out into a tape. Lately we've been trying to experiment with the form a little more, like with the split release. It didn't have a J card and it had the etched cases, and I think it's just like it's just fun, and it makes it more exciting for us and hopefully for other people too.
So I saw that you were like working with another label as well, Other Minds Records.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about that one? I'm not too familiar with that one.
Other Minds is like a new classical music presenting organization.
Okay.
That's been around since I think 1993.
Oh wow.
And when I was living in Oakland, after I finished grad school, I started working for them as like the production director, where I was putting on their concerts and doing like that work. There's like a festival every year. We did the first thing I did for them was a Reese Chatham 100 electric guitars event.
Oh wow.
Which was pretty wild.
Yeah.
I was in deeply over my head, and it was the most stressed out I hope to ever be. But yeah, and so I worked for them for 3 or 4 years, living in the Bay Area, and then when I moved, I stayed on with them, just running their record label.
Okay, that's cool.
And so, I don't necessarily develop all those projects, and some of them are just, there's a lot of moving parts, and it's that's like kind of my day job, like that's a consistent source of income, and I go to staff meetings and stuff.
Yeah.
But it is like really interesting and important music, and I'm really happy to work on it, and I've been able to do a lot of pretty cool things with them. Like we even released a tape. We did a Henry Birdsey tape.
Oh wow,
in January.
That's honestly sick.
Yeah, it's like it was one of those things where they all know that I do cassette releases and I run Full Spectrum.
Yeah.
And they were like, what if we did a tape for the Henry Birdsey? And I was like,
yes.
Man.
Half Dragged?
Yeah, Half Dragged.
I got sent that. This one was extremely good.
Yeah, it's so good. I actually, right before we were talking, I was like working on finishing another master for Henry, of this like wild ass like harmonica duo music. It's totally nuts.
That's honestly
Henry's wild. But yeah, everybody at Other Minds was like, we should do a tape, and I was like, I don't know. Like we're like a classical music label. Like I don't know if anyone's gonna be into it.
Is that like our demographic? Like
yeah, and I was a little skeptical, but they were convinced, and so we did it, and it honestly went over really well. Like I think Henry was kind of perfect because he has like a cult tape following.
Yeah.
And so that, I think it's like that plus the more classical oriented audience, I think made it work. So I was stoked about that.
That's so sick.
Yeah.
I think there is a market though for that classical stuff. It is small, and I'm consistently shocked because I'll run around a lot of San Diego tape shops or record places or go through boxes, and I'm looking for Windham Hill and ECM, and there's like one always kind of hiding it. There was a market for this. Again, I have a gut feeling it's there still, but how do you get that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's so funny. Like I really love how consistently you can find a Windham Hill or ECM thing, and they're like 50 cents, $1, and both of those labels I think are consistent enough that you can pick it up and it'll be worth at least a few listens. So maybe other minds will be the ECM of the 2020s.
The new ECM. So Maddie, I think you mentioned too on here, your upcoming releases are to use lathes. Like, what are the processes behind that? I think this goes back to Full Spectrum. So
yeah, the lathes. I have been talking about doing lathe cut records for Full Spectrum for years, and like maybe maybe not everybody knows what a lathe is. It's like a vinyl record is vinyl pressed.
It's like a machine like cuts it, right? Yeah.
It's literally like PVC sheets of PVC you buy at the hardware store, and they come as squares, and they're it's kind of like a older fashioned way of manufacturing a record, and they're all done in real time.
Yeah. So do you have like oh, sorry, go ahead, continue.
No, I mean, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, so do you have like a lathe cutter that you do it, or do you send it out? My friend Mark Mirza was telling me about how he bought like these toy lathe cutters from like Japan or something.
Oh.
Yeah, and he was like lathe cutting his own records for a while.
Whoa.
Yeah,
I looked into it, and it's kind of like pinball in that like there's this deep world of like absolute dorks that have like source all of these different parts.
Yeah.
And there's like all this like really particular stuff. And if you want these machines to work, you have to like get really, really deep and dorky into this world of mechanics and parts. And it's like, because as far as I know, like no one manufactures a lathe cutting machine in 2021.
Yeah.
Like they're all old vintage machines that inevitably are going to need a lot of work.
Yeah.
And upkeep to do it. And so it's too much for me to handle. Even though I bet it would be really fun. But because of that, and because they're real time, they're pretty expensive to manufacture.
Yeah.
And so making the logistics of it was really challenging. Like those we've been doing these lathe cut singles, and it's like we sell them for $15, which is a little much for a 7-inch single, but they cost like all told like $7 each to make. And so we only do editions of 20. And then we have the lathes manufactured with Cryptic Carousel, who are about the most affordable that I was able to find. And honestly, like he makes the best sounding lathes I've heard, because it is like kind of, it's one of those things where every time you play the record, it's going to deteriorate a little more.
Yeah.
And sound a little worse. But his lathes sound really good. And then Gretchen has kind of developed this really interesting screen printing process to do the artwork.
Okay, what's that entail?
Are you familiar with the like photo emulsion process that is screen printing?
Yeah, I used to have me and my dad made skateboards when I was in like high school. Like we had a press, and we would press the layers, and then I bought like a DIY screen printing thing, and I would make the emulsions, and I would screen print my own graphics onto the boards.
That's so sick. Wait, so you like manufactured the decks yourself?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would literally press the decks and everything.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I didn't really like, I was just doing this like, I'm in like 10th grade. I'm like selling them to like friends at school and like all this stuff for like $30.
That's so sick.
And then there's like still people in town that like I'm associated with from like DIY music or something like that will come up to me and be like, dude, that was the most DIY shit ever. And I'm like, dude, you're right. That's honestly kind of sick thinking back on it. Like, because I didn't have an appreciation for it back then. But I was just like, this is fun.
Did you ever do any like avant-garde decks, or were they like traditional like straight?
Yeah, so I was doing like traditional straight decks for a while, and then there was like a few I found this like deck from a garage sale, and it looked like it was something out of like the 60s or something, and it was like one of those fiberglass decks, and it was really thin, like and like I would cut a few of those out, and then I wanted to get more into it, but then at the same time, like some of my friends stopped getting into skating as much, and so like
Yeah.
you kind of like lose that motivation. And so
Yeah.
I was mostly just doing it out of like, oh, I'm bored this summer. I'm just gonna cut another one. And so it kind of died, which is a bummer. I still have the press and stuff in the garage somewhere, but it's like I never got anything too crazy, and that would have been the perfect time to like start making weird decks because that's when like I don't know if you're familiar with like Welcome skateboards at all.
No.
Okay, like Welcome skateboards started getting big around then, and they started making weird decks, and then like Crooked started making weird shaped
Yeah.
decks. And I was like, I think back on it now, and I'm like, dude, that would have been the perfect time to just start getting weird with it, you know?
Dude, I feel
But
like there's a lot of potential there. And
yeah,
like my first deck that I ever had when I was like, probably in like 8th grade
yeah,
was like a hand-me-down from my neighbor's brother. And it was like this big, chunky, like 80s deck that's like,
yeah,
a foot and a half wide and
that's
then like
sick.
tapers down.
Yeah,
And I remember being really embarrassed about it because it wasn't cool, but like
yeah.
I still have it and it's like really beautiful and really tight. And
No, that's honestly
um,
cool. Those 80s decks are honestly sick, where they're just like
yeah,
super fat with like the, thin and get the tail at the end.
yeah,
My brother is like 18 years older than me, and so he was always into skating and doing stuff on like those huge boards. And I
yeah.
remember one time I had found his board, like this is like years after he like moved out, but I had found his board, and it was like this old like Rob Roscop. I don't know, he's like this old pro skater from back in the day, and it was like on these like slime ball Santa Cruz wheels and stuff. And I remember we took this like because it had huge soft wheels, so you can obviously like skate a lot faster than you could on like a little popsicle shaped deck with like the small wheels.
Yeah.
So we took
Yeah.
this thing down the biggest hill close to my house, and we're like, dude, we can mob down this hill on the asphalt because the wheels will fly right over it. And my cousin took it and hit a manhole and just like
Oh,
slid, dude.
Oh,
We're like 10, dude, and he just slid across the asphalt and like had like
oh no.
this gnarly like road burn.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, that's just my memory with those old decks, and yeah, I just think they're sick.
Yeah, that's like how I quit skateboarding. I like
Yeah.
was like going down a hill on this huge fucking
You're good.
deck and like fell off going down a hill and turned around and it hit me in the face and broke my nose.
Oh my
And,
God, that's
after that, I
brutal.
was like, all right, no more skateboarding.
If that was like on video or something, you could probably send that to like Thrasher's like Hall of Meat. I don't know if you guys follow that page, but yeah, do you guys know
Yeah, I remember the Hall of Meat. Yeah.
yeah, dude. Hall of Meat on Instagram. Follow that page. It's honestly so sick. Yeah,
Man,
that's
brutal.
it's so brutal. Sometimes I'm watching and I'm just like, dude, I can't. It will say like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's like it's so sick, but
yeah,
you have to have like a self-destructive streak that I don't have.
yeah, dude, for real.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, like the screen printing process is like, and maybe this is like a known thing, but I just didn't know anything about it, is where she'll like take the emulsion, put it on the screen, and then arrange a bunch of like opaque and translucent and semi-translucent objects on the screen
mhm.
and then do the exposure.
Oh, that's kind of sick.
Um, so there's no like you don't print out a design, you don't even really make a design, you just kind of uh find because we have like all these like gyms and toys and just like weird stuff to kind of make junk sculptures out of.
Yeah.
And yeah, so she just kind of grabs a bunch of things and arranges it in some way, and you just kind of have to accept the result because you've got the screen and it's like that's it. That's what it is.
That's honestly so sick.
Yeah.
So
That's
with
actually how she did the tote bag as well.
okay,
there we go.
that's
Yeah.
tight. Oh, that's
Yeah.
so cool. Can you tell me more about your performance called An Essay on Folk Music? So, like in the piece, you basically argue that, genre is a capitalist invention to support commerce, and if people care just about the art, and if the art is of the people, then noise music per se can be folk music. Did I get that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean that's
Okay.
basically the gist of it. It's
Yeah.
like I a lot of my early music is really indebted to folk music,
Hmm.
where I was like trying to like rearrange and rework traditional folk songs.
Hmm.
Um, and I moved away from that for various reasons. But I think so. I made that piece initially for the High Plains Public Radio up in Amarillo.
Nice.
They were they were like hosting a show for at a conference of folk music, like an academic conference.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I guess like I need to talk about how I feel about folk music.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do this. Because everyone else on the showcase was just like a singer-songwriter doing their thing.
Yeah.
And the music director at High Plains Public Radio is Ginny Inzerillo, and she's really wonderful and like really supportive of what I do, because she's just like, you're just weird and you do weird stuff and we need that here, so great. And she like throws me wherever she can, basically. And I appreciate that about her. And so this was one of those times.
So was it? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say. So was this like well received there? Like, I don't know. For some reason, I feel like in, Texas. I actually don't know. Maybe I have my demographic wrong, but I feel like people wouldn't take that very lightly. Just being like, genre as a capitalist event. Like.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where it's like I sometimes have trouble explaining things because, things like this, in order to explain the one thing, you have to explain 10 other things back behind it in order to like come to an understanding here, and maybe everything is like that. But I was trying to, with the text in that piece, I was trying to be as clear as I could be. But I wonder if it may be like, there's too much implication in it where it's like, if you don't know who Black Flag is, maybe talking about Black Flag is like irrelevant to someone. And so I think no one was offended, which it's like, I'm not trying to be offensive, but like I was anticipating maybe a little bit of that. But I think it was just a little bit like, okay, that was really noisy. Why are you banging on a windmill right now? But I think it's like the larger point of it, I think is true. That like, what we think of as folk music, it is really just like this weird time capsule, like trapped in amber thing that only continues to exist so that people can sell it to other people. And like real folk music, I don't want to say real folk music. Music that is a developing tradition is a developing tradition.
Yeah.
And so I think like underground music and punk and noise and whatever it is we're all kind of involved with is like, to my mind, a more valid expression of folk music culture than, whatever is in Singer-Songwriter magazine or like.
Great magazine.
So what is that?
Great magazine.
Is it? I mean, I have no idea. It's like, maybe it is. I'm sure it's great, but it's like, if you're just still playing the same traditional structures and the same like, couple of melodies, like that's not a developing tradition, and that's like what folk music should be.
One of these things about this developing tradition is also that it's tied very regionally to different spaces. And again, some of the tapes that really come to mind immediately for me, it's like Reserve Matinee's Steelworkers Drone, which is really just a walk through a drone zone there. And or even some of the stuff again that was on, the label, really that stick control for drummer, that to me is like a really fascinating piece of folk music. To put it kind of in that realm of a tradition of what it's following. I mean, that's a good example, because it's like that music is derived from material that existed in the early 20th century, and Mira's like putting it in an entirely new context. And it's like, it does engage with like traditions of electronic music and classical music, but if that's not folk music, then like, what are we even talking about?
Yeah. I took
And
a. Oh, sorry.
I mean, again, these pieces could be small because with the wind tide split that you have, where that is your recording studio that you had
Yeah.
talked all the way back to the start, that you're just kind of doing some sound workshop there, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I can't remember if I've mentioned this in the folk music piece, but like I have this notion that I haven't been able to like fully express in a meaningful way. But like there is like a meaningful place where a sense of space and acoustic environment and people and people's personalities overlap, you know, and I know that doesn't really make sense, but that wind tide piece is kind of exploring that notion that like people and place are kind of like different ends of the same spectra.
I took a history of rock and roll class in the 8th grade, and one of the main things I remember from this is like any music of the people,
Yeah.
you know, is folk, like no matter the genre. But
When you're granted the space to like learn about things and think about things, you can like accept that and take that in. But then once we get into adulthood and commerce land, you know, folk music is just like some nice songs.
Well, also again, it's like this inability to engage with, I think, the electronics. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking also of like Arvo Silo and the work he's done with taking old cassettes and consistently just resending them out with, you know, slashes of industrial noise, or even on like a larger scale, the echo jams that Six Point never had done, because that really was him making a case of, well, you're surrounded also by this culture.
Yeah.
That this is, you know, like the modern pop folk culture that is just regurgitating that. So
totally. Well,
and these ideas, yeah, I've been like, this is great. Love it.
It's like vaporwave, totally folk music. It's just it's absolutely folk music in every way.
Yeah.
And like I don't know how you could miss that. And the thing is like, you know, okay, if we're talking in terms of like institutions, like Smithsonian Folkways is like the keeper of American folk music, right? Like that's like the thing. And even back in the day, in the 60s and 70s, Moses Ash had the presence of mind to release recordings of like avant-garde electronic music. Like there were like the Bartons, I can't remember their band name. This like composing duo had a record on Folkways. There's like the Jim Nolman like interspecies music albums. There's Ruth Anderson, and it's like, how are we missing that like extremely valid and important point? That like the like most important keepers of American folk music recognize it. So why do we keep electronics out of the folk music discussion everywhere else?
Andrew, you dabble in what people traditionally think of as folk music yourself, such as your very recent record with Hayden Padigo called Big Tex, Here We Come on Debacle Records. But it's just so wildly different from what we were talking about, you know, when we compare it to your work as like half of like Wind Tide, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, like, where that like bridge came from, I guess, you know? So like, what was DIY or like folk music something you were always interested in growing up? Like, you know, give us the big picture or like a glance into like your musical upbringings. Like, how did this come about?
Yeah. So I grew up in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, which has like a really strong tradition of like underground rock. You know, like Merge Records is from there, Superchunk and all that.
Oh, that's sick.
And so, you know, I was growing up in this environment where there were there's not anymore, unfortunately, but there's multiple rock clubs that are all ages, with vibrant local rock bands, like a vibrant local noise scene, and like peers who are in high school who are like starting record labels and hosting shows and like touring and doing all this stuff. And so like from the time I was a teenager, I was like, oh, cool. Like all I got to do is email the Nightlight and they'll let me set up a show, even though I'm like this 16-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And like, that is a really rare thing. That doesn't happen everywhere. And so having access to that and having access to like a lot of interesting record stores and bookstores from a young age, it's just like empowering. And I just kind of like, from the time I was a kid, I was just like, okay, underground music, this is the thing that I do. Yeah, and I feel really lucky to have had that, and I wish that. I mean, it's like I can't imagine that even now, growing up in Chapel Hill is in any way similar, because the clubs aren't there. There's just not quite as many options. I've just like been extremely active for a really long time, and then yeah, it's just genre is fake. You know?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, that's it. It's just fake.
It's just totally fake.
That's where the bridge. There's no bridge. It's just it's just DIY music the whole time. That's all you're doing.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's just DIY music.
That's just all it is.
I have a few different like methods that I work with.
Yeah,
and it's like
we could just say that Andrew Weathers is a folk musician. That's all we got to say.
I mean, I think that's fine. More and more, I think that's fine, and people are gonna misunderstand that, and that's all good.
Yeah.
It's just like me and Hayden in a room. That's like what it is. It's like I can't like scrape rocks together while Hayden plays guitar. Like that's not. Yeah. It's just not. It's like I really want that to work, but it's not gonna work, unfortunately.
So I guess that's like all I have for the questions that me and Maddie wrote up. Did you have anything else you want to ask, or should we go into some fan questions, Maddie?
Oh boy. Yeah, let's go into those fan questions.
Oh, you got fan questions?
We got some fan questions for you.
Oh yeah.
I got a big bag.
I'm gonna have to check if we got any more in a sec here, because the notifications have been going off during this interview.
Oh, more showed up?
Oh, dude.
Nice.
Patrick Shirishi asked a couple here.
Wow, cool.
Okay, so we'll start from the very beginning. This one's actually from me. It's, I guess I can say I'm a fan, but so the press photo that you sent me, you're all like decked out in like outdoor gear. Like, do you ever go like hiking or backpacking or anything?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's been like the major activity the past year. And that one was a particularly funny one, because it's like, it's the Llano Estacado where I live. It's like a flat, high plain.
Yeah.
And so in the spring, especially, the wind is just like brutal, just unbelievable. And it was like Sunday, and me and Gretchen were like, we need to hike. Been like working in this like office. I need to like walk around. And so we went out to this wildlife preserve that we go to. It was just like, you're walking at a 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
And like we wear windbreakers a lot because it helps a whole lot. But like if I would face the wind, you can see in the photo, it's just like
just puffing your jacket up. Yeah.
Huge, puffed up.
Yeah, just blowing it up.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm not a serious man. Like, I think that's a funny photo, and like
it's a great photo. It's a great photo.
Part of my life.
Yeah, that's sick. The reason I'm asking is just because that's what I've been doing too, just going out hiking and stuff. Do you ever do anything like long term at all?
I've not done any like backpacking.
Okay.
We for a while we had this old ambulance.
Okay.
And so we would do like the boondocking thing of like parking on BLM land.
Yeah, that's sick.
Which is like, I know van life is really trendy, but like it's awesome.
It's sick. Yeah, it's sick. I could see why it's trendy, because it's a good time. I personally don't have a van, but I know a bunch of people getting vans, and I'm like, I can see the appeal. I just take my little Toyota and just throw a tent up if I have to or something.
Yeah, totally. I think it's like that's what we've been doing the past few years, just like camping out and doing like day hikes from there. I do want to do some backpacking. I have this map in my studio of the entire Pacific Crest Trail.
Oh, that's dope.
And like And it's like the way, if I'm talking on the phone, I sit and just look at it. And every time I'm on the phone, I'm like, oh man, I really need to do the PCT.
Dude, the PCT's gnarly.
I bet it's so gnarly.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do it. Like, I follow a few forums. Dude, okay, so like a lot of the people on the PCT use this website called Lighterpack.
Okay.
Have you heard of Lighterpack at all?
No,
I
no.
guess if you're not really into backpacking, you may not know it, but
Is this like about like maximizing the efficiency of your
yes,
weight or
dude, it's
whatever?
so funny. So me and my friends have just
Dude.
been like backpacking a lot. I'm going to Alaska this summer. We're gonna hit Denali, and so we just been going on a
Incredible.
bunch of trips, Um, and Denali is a whole other story. Like, there's no trails there or anything, so it's like you kind of just they drop you off on a bus and you just walk, and like
Amazing.
you see like
That's like the ideal.
yeah, it's gonna be crazy. But anyway, so I've just been trying to like get back. I was a lot into way more into it when I was younger. Anyways, Lighter Pack is like this website. You enter all of your gear and all of the weights for your gear, and then it gives you a breakdown of like, um, where all your weight is coming from in your pack. And right now, my base weight is 21.53 pounds, not including water or food in my pack.
Dude.
And then I'm wearing 4.61 pounds of
Dude.
clothing. And then so my total is 26.14 pounds. And I forgot why I was talking about that, but
The
oh,
PCT,
the
because you gotta,
PCT, yes, because everybody on the PCT does that, and I follow a bunch of PCT forums because I'm like, these guys know how to backpack light. But now that I'm
yeah.
getting into it, I'm like, okay, but I also feel like when you're going ultralight and doing something on the PCT, you're literally just inconveniencing yourself for the sake of weight. You
Yeah.
know, it's
Yeah.
so yeah, it's really interesting. Like, I'm looking into like just different gear, and so I was like reading some stuff about like white gas stoves, and I was like, should I go butane or white gas? Because my white gas stove is kind of messed up. But people were like, no, go solid fuel for weight, and solid fuel is
Dude.
literally just a little like piece of metal with two flaps that come up, and you set your pot on the two flaps, and then you have a little like sugar cube looking thing of fuel that you light on fire in this little metal grate. And they're like, yeah, it takes 20 minutes to boil your water, but like the weight. You know what I'm saying? Or
What?
like, yeah,
But it's so light.
yeah. Or there's this other thing where I have this like really nice water filter that I got like some years back. It has like the ceramic, and then it has like
Yeah.
the charcoal for the taste, and then it has like the paper filter. But then the ultralighters are like, nah, we don't use that technology anymore. We go to Walmart and we get the what's it called? The cheap little like Sawyer things, and we bring smart bottles, like smart water bottles, and we use that to filter our water, and we just sip out of the smart life straw or something because it's lightweight.
Dude, yeah, the life straw.
Yeah, and I'm just like, dude, you guys like literally just inconvenience yourself for the sake of weight when there's like all this like technology that was made to like help you do things. It's interesting. It's just
Yeah,
interesting.
but it's like, that's a brutal trail.
Oh, it is. I can see why they go lightweight for sure. That's like
Yeah.
like 5 or 6 months out on the trail.
Yeah.
Like
Do you know this dude, Grayson Curran?
I'm not sure.
He's from North Carolina. He's a music writer.
Oh yes, abs. Oh, this guy slaps. He's
Yeah, yeah. Grayson's great. And he just started the PCT like
Really?
a week ago or two. I don't know. Recently started the PCT.
Now's a
oh, it's
Um,
popular time for people to
metal.
start. Yeah.
and he wrote this article. He also did the Appalachian Trail
Oh, that's sick.
within the past couple of years,
Hmm.
and he wrote this article about like doing the Appalachian Trail, and
Hmm.
like at the end of it, he's like basically in the best shape of his life, but also like impossibly messed up. Like his joints, his knees, his feet are just like wrecked, probably
Oh,
permanently.
yeah. Dude, I've
Whoa.
also been reading too that there's people that get like mentally fucked up from like these long-term treks too. Because
Yeah,
like they literally can't like associate back into normal society. It's really interesting. From what they're
yeah,
saying, I don't really know. And I guess they're saying like, yeah, like if you're having trouble like learning how to make more friends or like just keep relationships, they're like, yeah, here's like a PCT, like a post PCT support group. And I'm just like,
dude.
that is so interesting. Like,
That's that like all of this like makes me really want to do it.
yeah, right. It sounds sick. Like I'm
It
down. Like
Yeah, I'm totally down.
it's
It just seems like such a powerful, like wild
it sounds so
experience.
cool to just be
Yeah.
like, so not connected to society anymore, it's hard to come back. Like that's
Yeah.
sick, you know?
That's
Well,
ideal.
Yeah.
Pack some tapes with you, and then check the Bandcamp to see if orders get placed, and when you get to a local post office, just ship them off.
Dude,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, dude.
This is like my dilemma in many things where I'm like, I can't like fuck off to nowhere for 3 weeks because I gotta mail the tapes.
See, yeah, exactly. That's how I feel about like the show and stuff. I'm like, I can't
Yeah.
do this because then I'm just gonna have to take some time. Like, you know, like I'm gonna have to stop this. You know, like whatever. But anyways, so I'm glad to see you're doing some hiking and stuff. That's cool.
Yeah.
So here's another question. Let me see who it's from. Hold on. It's from the Modern Folk on
Oh,
yeah. So
yeah, Josh.
how do you feel about lawns?
Lawns, I fucking hate lawns.
Why?
I mean, okay. I live in the arid West, right? You guys live in the arid West too.
Yeah.
It's true.
Lawns are the single crop in the U.S. that uses the most water.
Oh, isn't that like why like in California, I think they were what's it called, subsidizing people to like get rid of their lawns and put in just like rocks and cacti and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why, right? Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do that? It's more beautiful.
It's more beautiful.
It looks
this
sicker,
is the
yeah.
thing. It's like lawns are just like white European colonialism manifest in our day-to-day lives.
100% is.
Yeah, where it's just like it's like this like dumb like 1823 attitude of like we can make the entire country look like Western Europe.
Yeah.
And it's totally based in nothing. It's totally like moronic. And it's like, and it's not even, it doesn't even look good anywhere. And it doesn't provide any shelter for wildlife. And it's just like a waste of space. And there's no reason for any of us to have it, you know? When it's just like we live in the grasslands.
Yeah.
There's beautiful grass here. There's like unbelievably like this wide variety of grass
Yeah.
that we could be growing. And
Totally.
it provides food and shelter for lots of critters and doesn't need to be watered.
Yeah.
And why would we plant Kentucky bluegrass? Like it's completely foolish. But you know, there's a lot of anti-lawn memes going around these days.
Is
and
there really?
Everybody sends them to me.
Oh, that's dope. That's sick.
Yeah, and I really appreciate them. So I'm
That's
glad
so
that
cool.
Josh asked that. He knew that he's like, how can I get Andrew to yell about something?
So I guess my other question is, how do you feel about suburbs?
Suburbs? I mean, suburbs in general is like, I think that we have the wrong idea about suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
Because like we do have this image of like Chicago suburbs. It's all plain communities. It's all white people. It's all rich people. It's white flight. Which like, yes, historically that is part of it, but that's really like only a fraction of the story where like, you know, for example, like Houston, like the Houston suburbs are unbelievably diverse culturally. And because it's like, it's cheaper than living in the city. And so that's where immigrant communities go. And yeah, there are like the kind of like nasty looking planned communities or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, it's like, that's what we got in the US. We're a young country and we don't know how to like preserve architecture.
Yeah. That's interesting. Oh, sorry. Did you want to?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. That's interesting that you like talked about it from that perspective. Cause like I majored in geography at school. And so I had this, you know, they're always just talking about like space and how space is just occupied and stuff. And I had this professor who absolutely hated suburbs with like all his being. I took this class called the Geography of the United States. And when we were talking about, what was it? I think it was like the Midwest. You know, we're just going through different regions of the United States. And he was talking about Levittown, USA, and like the beginning of the American suburb. Have you heard of Levittown?
I'm like vaguely aware, but
It
yeah.
was just like, and like they wouldn't let like people of color buy the houses
Yeah.
there. It was I didn't know this about suburbs back until I took that class, but and it was like they would like prioritize like people that went to like, you know, serve in like the military or something, like in wars
Yeah.
or something. They would prioritize them, which is like predominantly white folk. They were like, yeah, USA, you know. Um, yeah, and so yeah, it's just interesting that you hear it from your perspective, because like yeah, it like suburbs are definitely a safe haven for like, you know, people that can't afford to live in a city where it's like highly gentrified and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's
So,
like in the Bay, it's like
Oh man.
SF is one thing, but then the suburbs are like pretty equally vibrant,
yeah. Yeah.
and so it's like I think that that history that you're talking about is like obviously important to be aware of,
Mhm.
but it's like our popular notion of the suburbs is still like 25 years behind,
Oh, yeah. For sure.
where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, people maybe don't realize that like what the suburbs what that actually
Mhm.
means now.
Yeah. Mhm.
So yeah, pretty wild.
Yeah. So I guess moving on to the next question, this is from the person themselves. So ask him if working with Hayden Padigo on an album was terrible.
Did Hayden ask that?
Yeah, that was from Hayden.
Oh, no, it ruled working with Hayden. Uh, yeah, we did two albums together. We did the Big Text album, and then I produced and recorded an upcoming album of his that's going to come out on Mexican Summer.
Mm.
And
Oh.
yeah, maybe that's not announced. I don't know. No, they announced it. It's fine.
That's
And
sick.
I love working with Hayden. He's a really good dude, and like I think I think that we're starting to develop a really good working relationship, and I think it's like we've done these two records, and I really pretty strongly believe that like uh, that's just like the beginning of what me and Hayden are going to do together.
So how did you and Hayden link up?
He honestly was the first person that I knew around here.
Oh, really?
Whoa.
Yeah. Um, so we bought this building in the end of 2014, but we didn't move out until 2017.
Mm.
And Hayden, I think it was 2014, he curated one of Tompkins Square's Imaginational Anthem guitar compilations.
Okay.
Um, and he had me he had me do a piece on one of those the album that he curated.
Okay.
And so that was before we were even considering moving to Littlefield. But then so we like kind of vaguely knew each other from that, and then when I started coming out here, um, I would just go see him, and we became friends that way.
That's sick.
Because it's a small, it's like this part of West Texas, there's not that many people doing music stuff
Mhm.
or whatever. So you gotta really like form those relationships and do what you can.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So here's another one. This is from Lucy Liu. What's Lucy Liu's favorite Mariah Carey album?
Wow.
Oh my God. Uh, I don't know if this is a Mariah Carey album. Emancipation of Mimi.
I have no
Do you know the
idea. I
answer?
don't know the
Well,
answer. Like
We're
they,
gonna say that's right, but also
yeah,
we don't know.
yeah, they
We got that feeling. I can vibe it.
yeah,
I'm
literally
rolling
just
with it.
hit me with a tweet.
Yep, that is the 10th studio album by
Oh,
American
really?
singer-songwriter
Awesome.
Mariah Carey.
That's so dope.
That's Lucy's favorite. I'm whatever they say, that is Lucy's favorite.
Hell yeah. So, here's another one. Your most exciting musical achievement so far.
My most exciting musical achievement so far.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like honestly, uh, just the fact that I have a career in music
Yeah.
that like
It's sustaining you,
Um,
I guess.
say that again.
It's just like sustaining you, like being able to live and put food on the table, like you were saying.
Yeah, it's like it's still a job, and so
Yeah,
it has its frustrations, but like
yeah,
my job is music and doing a bunch of stuff with artists and people who are interesting and make great work. And it's like this is a Monday afternoon, and I'm on Zoom with you guys doing
yeah.
a show. Like it's kind of like a weird dream life.
Yeah.
Um, and so that I think that is the greatest musical accomplishment
Hey, you made
is
it.
that I get to do it.
You made it. You made it.
Yeah.
Texas
Yeah.
Prairie legend Andrew Weathers has made it. And
Yeah. Hell yeah.
so here's a few more. What is the food you hate the absolute most? That's from Patrick.
That's from Patrick. Patrick, what the hell? Um, I feel like I need to ask Gretchen this. I don't know.
Can we get
There's
a phone?
nothing that I like
You get
absolutely hate.
one phone call each show. You can call in Gretchen.
Okay, I'm gonna go ask her actually.
Okay.
I'll be back.
Okay.
He walks out of the room.
That's honestly dope.
I think it's gonna be a quiche.
You think so?
I think it's gonna be a quiche. I've just got like
Quiche.
a good feeling that he's not a fan of that. It's just not a flavor in his palate.
Of
It's not a
baked
flavor in mine.
baked
Do you like
egg,
quiches?
egg pies? I don't know how I
Yeah.
feel about an egg pie, dude. It's just
You don't?
Okay, asparagus.
you don't like
Whoa.
asparagus? Really?
No, asparagus is whack as hell.
Maddie,
Everyone's like, it's really good if you grill it. It's not. It is gross.
I honestly like it grilled. It's honestly kind of good like that. Maddie guessed quiche. Are you a fan of quiche?
I mean, but it's like I'm never gonna want a quiche. I don't desire quiche.
Yeah.
But if you put it's like honestly, like this is why I have trouble answering the question, is it's like if someone puts a thing in front of me, even if it's asparagus, I'm gonna eat it. Like it's food. It's rude to not eat it. Like I'm not allergic to anything.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna eat it.
That's how I am too. Like I'll generally just eat anything, and my girlfriend is like more on the picky side. She's probably gonna listen to this and be like, "Fuck you for saying that," but she's more on the picky side, and anyways, I'll just like eat whatever, like I don't care, like as long as it's
Yeah.
not okay. But the first food, I actually had it last week, and I did it to myself. Nobody even gave it to me. I did it to myself. First food that I've absolutely hated, and it was like, not eating this, I'm throwing it away, was this vegan tuna that I bought at a grocery store, and it was
Yeah.
disgusting. It was the
Yeah.
grossest thing I've ever tasted in my life.
Yeah. The fake meats is hard.
Yeah.
It's like I'll get down with it, but like
I can get down with
I-
most vegan things, and I think
Yeah.
that vegan food, when it's like literally just like plants, like if you make some chickpea tuna salad, where you just smash up some chickpeas, throw some mayo in there, some veganese, throw some celery, some pickles, delicious.
That's
That
a
is
good
so
time.
refreshing. It's so good.
Yeah.
But once they do the fake meat, gets a little dicey there. You know what I'm saying? And
Well, I think this is kind of like the problem. It's like I'm not a vegan, so I maybe have no right to talk about this, but it's like, there are a lot of things that you could do to make like a fun, delicious protein.
oh yeah,
And it doesn't need to be in the image of tuna
yeah,
or
Yeah,
whatever.
dude,
It's like
yeah,
you can just make a thing that's good
yeah,
and it has its own existence and like that let it just be itself.
yeah,
It doesn't need to be tuna. It's not tuna.
exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, I guess Maddie, do you have a food that you hate most?
Definitely already given it, I think, over to the quiche. I like asparagus, although of course the smell that comes after is
It's not good.
Oh yeah,
oh good God, that really just for years I hated sushi, but I'm back to fully embrace that again, having a good time.
the vegan sushi
Could a
that did
chill-
it this
Could a
weekend.
chilled
Right?
soup be bad? I don't know.
Chilled soup.
Gazpacho?
No, I love gazpacho.
There's this. I eat cold food because, again, I don't care. As long as it tastes decent to me, I will eat it. So I eat cold food. And one time at KCSB, when we were doing in-person stuff, we would always have food left over from like our orientations or like general staff meetings. We get like catering. And anyways, Maddie, I think this might have been before you like joined the station, but Nico Van Imeren, she was so offended when I walked into the station and I just grabbed a plate, like between class, just grabbed a plate of cold rice and just started eating it. And she's like, just staring at me. And I'm just like, what up, dude? Like, you good? And she's like, dude, put that in the microwave. And I'm like, no, dude. Like, why? Anyways.
Cold rice is fine.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I eat my old oatmeal cold too. Like I don't even heat that up. I just soak it for a little bit, eat it cold. Like, you know. Anyways.
Wild style.
Yeah, wild style, dude. So here's another one from Patrick.
Dude.
What is the worst movie you've ever seen in your entire life?
Oh my god, why does Patrick want to know about my worst?
Why is everyone trying to rile you up?
Yeah, I know. Well, it's like everybody knows I'm high strung. Worst movie. Oh man. I've seen some bad movies. You know, the only one that I can remember, I don't know if this is definitively the worst.
Yeah.
But that movie Date Night.
Really?
It's like Steve Carell and Tina Fey.
It was just so it just hit you in such a bad way. You're like, no.
Yeah. Well, it was one of those things where it like nothing really happens and you watch it and you're just like, I just wasted my life.
Yeah.
Like I didn't laugh really. I wasn't I wasn't amused.
Yeah.
It just had there's all this shit happened in front of me. And it's like maybe this is why because I watched that because the woman who worked at our local post office who I've like become buds with, she started quoting Date Night at me and just like going off on it one day, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like I have no idea what this means. And she was like, oh, Date Night, you got to see Date Night. It's like the best. And I did it. I watched it. I'm trying to connect with the people around me, and so we watched this movie, and I was just bummed.
Did you tell her that though?
No, I didn't. I was like, I watched it. I get your joke now.
You never go to that post office again.
No, she got transferred to another post office, so we never have to talk about it again.
Okay, I was gonna say, what if she hears this, dude? What if like somehow she like finds out that you did this interview? I don't know if she follows you on Instagram.
She's gonna be so mad at me.
Yeah, she's gonna listen through 1.5 hours of us chatting, and she's gonna get to the point, and she's gonna be like, "Fuck Andrew, dude. Why did I sit through that?"
Oh my god!
And then no one is ever gonna get their tapes ever again.
Yeah.
Always lost in the mail.
Yeah, everything
yeah,
gets
dude.
lost in the mail.
Yeah, that's so funny. Okay, so one more from Patrick. He wants to know what you hate No, I'm just kidding. How are you so prolific and keep the quality of music so high?
I mean, same to you, Patrick.
I know, right?
That's what we're asking him on the interview.
Yeah, no. Can I like issue my fan question in advance?
Oh yeah, do
Patrick?
It. Yeah.
Same to you. I mean, it's kind of like anything. It's just like you do a little bit every day.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I have this like kind of like unhinged organizational system for projects in progress of like folders on my computer, and you just kind of like go through everything every day and think about it. And even if you don't like touch anything or move anything or listen to anything, you just like look at the folder, like think about the project.
Yeah.
and like what needs to happen, and just kind of like have a constant awareness of all these like multitude of different things. And it's like a combination of that and like having like really wonderful collaborators, you know.
So I guess another question I'm gonna add on to Patrick's question. So do you think that quality and output are at like a 1-to-1 ratio? So they just go up on a graph together?
Ooh.
So your very first one, it was bad, but then as you eventually just like keep putting them out, does it just get better?
Well, yeah. I mean, well, okay.
So how do you look back at like your previous work? Are you like, I don't like that anymore because I've like progressed to here, or
I do everything I can to not think about my previous work, like at all. Like it's like I really try to not think about it, and like whether I'm like avoiding it, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like I have a lot of early work that I have not. I felt compelled to keep it available just as like a reference,
Yeah.
maybe, but I don't think it's very good. You know, it's like I don't
Yeah.
think it's particularly good. But you know, okay, I'll preface all of this. Like, I think quality is fake. Like, I think the notion of like, especially in the arts, of like good versus bad is just like not really real because it's just like there's no quantification of it. I can't like half the things I like where it's like, why do I like this album that
Yep.
is like one piano note every 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Why do I like that? Who knows, but I find it very compelling. And like you know, it's like you barely know it's on, but I like it. Like I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think quality is maybe fake.
Uh-huh.
Because when I'm making stuff, like I just do it and I just like follow through with the ideas. And like, you know, there are things where you think about it and you're like, that sounds bad. I'm gonna take that out. But like the end result is just kind of like I just kind of like roll the ball around and like whatever it picked up
Yeah.
is kind of the thing. But yeah, I mean, practice. It's like the 10,000 hours thing. I think is true, where it's like the more time you spend with things and on things, the better you get at it.
Have you read the book Outliers?
No,
Okay, that's pretty much that. You don't need to read
Is
it.
it-
I just summarized it to you.
I've like received the book.
Yeah, you pretty much just like I said that, and you don't need to read it. Like you just know it already.
Yeah. It's
Someone
just,
asks you if you read Outliers, you just say yes now.
yes. I've lived Outliers, man.
Yeah. That's cool though. So I guess I'm gonna add on to that again. Do you ever just throw on one of your own records, and do you ever just like sit there and you're like, this is so good? Like, you ever just get your own song stuck in your head or anything? Like,
That Andrew Weathers guy.
because you were mentioning
know,
that you like try to avoid thinking about your past work at all times. So like, do you ever just get like a record in the mail from like the label or something giving you your artist copy, and do you ever just like throw it on your tape deck or like turntable?
You know, I don't really believe in guilty pleasures,
Yeah.
but I think like if there's a guilty pleasure, it is that I when I listen to my own music, I feel like shame and guilt. But sometimes if my solo work I don't really listen to that much unless I have, you know, functionally sometimes you have to.
Yeah.
But I listen often to collaborative things that I've done.
I could see that being kind of different because it's like more of like a, I don't really know how to articulate it, but I see what you mean.
Yeah, well, it's just like, oh, I miss my friends.
Yeah.
And or like, did we do a good job? Like,
Yeah.
like am I just like fooling myself? And then you listen to your thing and you're like, I'm reminded of my friends. And so it's on occasion, but like, you know, like Full Spectrum releases, once they're out, I just never listen to them. And like, maybe, sorry everybody, but like, but it just like at once something has been released, I've listened to it so many times.
Oh no, I see what you mean. That's how I am with like my shows too, because I have to
Yeah.
sit here and listen for like I'm gonna have to do the same thing here. I'm probably gonna have to listen to it 3 times throughout the week, make
my
sure I
God.
get all of like the curse words, make sure everything sounds good.
Yeah,
And then by the time it airs and stuff, I'm just like, I'm over it. You know
you're
what I'm
done.
saying?
It's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Uh,
it's if I'm on somebody's podcast or whatever like this, I won't listen to this. I'm sorry. Like I can't it's too embarrassing to listen
oh,
to
it
myself
definitely
talk.
is embarrassing to listen to yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
all the
it's so
time. I
embarrassing.
say dumb shit on my own radio show all the time.
Dude.
And I'll go back and listen to it and I'm like, dude, I'm so dumb. Like
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's like, why did I go so hard about like the suburbs? Like, why am I
Yeah,
standing
exactly.
in the suburbs right now? Like, come
I
on.
talked 10
No, this
minutes
is
about
good.
the
This is good.
PCT. Like,
Yeah.
why did I do that? You know what I'm saying? Be listening to that and be like, should I cut this? Nobody wants to hear me just babble about the PCT. You know what I'm saying? Like,
But they do though, you know?
yeah,
I mean, yeah, I mean, this is kind of like why quality is fake.
yeah, exactly. You know,
You know,
we do this.
we just have we're so in our own heads and filled with like personal feelings that have like maybe little basis in reality that
Yeah.
like if
Yeah,
we're
you-
judging, you just can't judge anything.
Yeah,
You can't quantify it to abstract it or abstract enough to quantify it for people. But like again, I've got right next to me this advanced tape of Enigma's 1989 catalog and Chet Baker, best of.
Yeah.
This is quality. Both of them to me are going to serve the same purpose.
Yeah. Well, and it's just like, you know, my life experience has led me to believe that listening to Jandek is like fun and a good time. And a lot of people, if you play that, they're like, what is wrong with this man? And we just are like a mess of personal experiences and reference points. It's kind of like the thing I was talking about, the folk music piece, where like to explain this one thing, you have to go back to
Yeah.
15 different things to get to the one point. And
Yeah.
like everything is like that. So
yeah.
the fuck do we know about anything? This is like getting into some like stone philosophy
Oh,
major
100%, right?
territory.
Yeah. One more thing I'm gonna add on to that. So, do you ever listen back to your masters? The masters that you give people? Like,
You mean like after the
actually,
functional part of it is over?
yeah, after you're just like, okay, hey, like, I'm done with this. Here, you get your like record, and you can do whatever you need to do with it. Like, I actually have one right here, just by chance. This Drouse tape, and
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I don't, honestly, because it's the same thing as when I do things on Full Spectrum.
because you're just listening to it for so long, like,
Yeah, I just
Uh-huh.
spent so many hours with things, and like, like Gretchen subscribes to Claire's Bandcamp
oh
thing,
yeah,
oh, yeah.
and so she gets all the physical copies of everything, and I master like 90% of Claire's work, Claire Rossi,
yeah,
and I think Gretchen gets kind of bummed because she doesn't get to hear it because I'm like, no, I can't. It's just like, can't put that on right now.
yeah,
We're done. Discreet the market. We're not listening to anymore.
And it's like, like I listened to the Maury's album Mari after the fact when I
Uh-huh.
got a physical copy of it,
yeah,
and I just got really bummed out because I was like, man, I think I didn't do a very good job on
oh,
this.
I could see that too. You know what I'm saying? We were
And
just like,
maybe,
I could have done better.
Maybe I
like,
did. I don't know, but like I can't think about it because I did it and it's out. And like, if I start to really dig into those things, I'll redo everything I've ever done.
Yeah,
Just let it be. It's okay. We'll do the listening.
yeah,
We've got
Yeah.
that. I've got those tapes. I really do. I love the hell out of them. And I'll go back and revisit some Claire stuff, and then
We'll report
Yeah.
back to you, Andrew. We'll listen and we'll report back to you. Yeah, like, you don't need to listen to him anymore. We'll listen for you, and then we'll tell you it sounds good. So you can just
Yeah,
keep
you can
going with
also
that.
tell me when it sounds bad too. Like that's good. That's great.
How would you feel if I literally just messaged you, "Hey, Andrew, I'm honestly not that big of a fan of your mastering work here."
I mean,
Or,
honestly,
like, just
like that is like truly welcome.
Has
Like
any-
I've had
have people done
do
that before?
stuff. Say that again.
Have people done that before?
It's like no one has ever been like, hey, you did a bad job, I think.
Yeah.
But people have like like message me like, hey, this one part on like this Kyle Gann CD you mastered, like, is it supposed to sound like that? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I had, and you get into a discussion about it. And I think that that's actually like pretty
I
cool.
could see it being constructive. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like you can always just keep improving on your skills, you know?
Totally.
So here's one more that we actually just got like 5 seconds ago. Now that I refreshed the page, this one's from Time Suck.
Oh,
what is Time Suck?
Time Suck.
Oh, small record label for tapes.
Yeah, out in Ogden.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to listen to some of their stuff. So when does the new machete photo drop?
Oh, new machete photo? I think I need a new machete.
Oh,
I've already like taken pictures with all of my blades. Oh, actually, I have a small knife that I haven't taken a picture of that I will post for Harvey later.
Oh, heck yeah. Wait,
yeah,
so
Harvey is Time Suck.
So what are they referencing here? Do you just post photos of your blades on like Instagram or something?
Yeah. Like I had like a brief phase where I had acquired a machete and I took this like kind of buck wild picture, and then a little bit later I acquired an axe and I took a picture with the axe, and I was just like, you know what? Maybe pictures of blades is my thing. So yeah, I actually have a small knife that I'll take a picture with. So later today,
that's dope.
New blade pick.
Oh hell yeah, dude! I'm stoked.
Yeah.
You heard it. You heard it here first. Time Suck. You're gonna get your blade photo.
Hell yeah.
So I think that just about does it. Where can people keep up with your prolific projects, as Patrick says? Where can people just keep up? Do you have any last remarks? Like,
well, just thanks for talking and having me talk about all this wacko stuff.
No, thank you. We are blessed to have Texas Prairie Legend Andrew Weathers on the show.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's super fun. I'm on all the social media. I probably talk the most shit on Twitter. That's like the least filtered, if one desires that.
Yeah.
But I'm on Bandcamp. There's the Full Spectrum Bandcamp, my Andrew Weathers Bandcamp. And there are email lists of all of these on the andrewweathers.com and fullspectrumrecords.com.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, I'm a pretty easy guy to find. I also just, if anything I say to anyone who hears this is interesting or confusing, my email address is andrewweathers@gmail.com.
Hell yeah.
And that's great. I love to talk about things. Yeah, I think that's it.
Sounds good. Maddie, you want to hit Andrew with the very last question here?
Oh, yeah, this one, it always comes in. It kind of
It's the very last one. You may know it. You may know it.
So a rat's going to jump in your mouth now, and it's just going to happen. Head or butt here, and why?
Head.
Why?
Okay.
Because it's smaller, and it's smaller, and should you have to fight the rat, it is less rat to bite through.
So you just bite its head off?
Ooh. Okay.
If a rat is going to jump in my mouth and it is like angry, you might have to bite a rat's head off.
Andrew's the culprit here. I found the culprit of this photo. That's Andrew, dude.
Wow. Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah, I was backpacking and we came across that rat just beheaded. So something just like ate half of it and then left the other half, and I was just
brutal.
like,
and they ate the top half.
Dude, they did. So I was like, but now I know the culprit. I know who did it.
Yeah.
Don't have to be
sorry, man.
Yeah. So
and less tail.
See, that's another thing that people say is that the tail, they wouldn't be able to deal with the tail's texture.
Yeah, that sounds extremely disgusting.
It sounds unpleasant. Some spaghetti going down, Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I'd be down either.
No.
So, but anyways, I mean, I guess maybe I'd be down. This is the answer I always give just because it's nice. No one gets hurt. But you basically take the rat butt first into the mouth, and then you calm it down, you pet it on its head, and you befriend it, and you make it a little ratatouille and put it under your hat. You can make some 5-star meals.
Wow. You're more gentle with the rats than I am, I think.
So there it is. I think that's all we have for today. Thanks for tuning into TBD on KCSB FM 91.9 every Sunday 4 to 6 p.m. and NetNet Radio every Saturday at 4 p.m. This is Andrew Weathers. Thanks for being on the show, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks for having me.